My dear friends, welcome to the 46th class of the Bhagavad Gita. We will start chapter 6 today, and we finished chapter 5, of course, last time, but let us revisit chapter 5 in a brief way. Now, chapter 5 is one of the few short chapters of the Gita. It has only 29 shlokas. And quickly we can revisit that. So in shlok, it opens. How does the chapter 5 open? It opens by, as always, Arjuna asking Krishna this question. He says, which is better, O Krishna? Is karma sannyas or renunciation of action better? Or is karma yoga, means uniting yourself with spirit through action, that is better? To this question in shloka number 2, Krishna answers, he says that both lead to liberation. However, karma yoga is better foremost. And we will understand this word foremost as we progress. But in general, for us, he's saying it is better to perform your actions, material as well as spiritual, rather than renouncing actions. From shlokas 4 to 6, he says that those who truly understand, for them, karma sannyas and karma yoga are actually, they are leading to the same goal. And we may think that how is it possible that leaving all actions and or performing actions by uniting ourselves with spirit, how is it the same? So what does a sannyasi do? So as far as, let's say, take the example of a monk. So the monk renounces all his outer activities. That includes earning money or creating a home for himself. He also renounces the fruits of whatever action he's doing, spiritual action, that means. And he also renounces even outward, so superficial, ritual rites. On the other hand, what is the karma yogi doing? So karma yogi is performing all actions, but he too on the inside is renouncing his attachment to those actions or the fruits of action. So what will happen is that both these will be led to a level of stillness inside them, which is the absolute goal of our own existence. So it will lead them to their own atman. So whether you go by the renunciation of action in a proper way, like which is when you follow the Swami order, or you go in the worldly way through karma yoga, the goal is one and the same. And that is why Krishna says, for those who understand, we are talking of the same goal. Then in shloka number 6, he said, very important for us to understand, that renunciation without self-discipline is very difficult. So for those who can suddenly imagine that, oh, now I want God and let me leave all my responsibilities. I'm anyway fed up with this world. Let me go into a cave, or let me go into the Himalayas or to the forest. For them, this is a warning phrase. If you have not prepared your mind for complete renunciation, it is going to be a failure. What do we mean by that? So suppose you suddenly say, okay, from tomorrow I am leaving my worldly duties, let me go out to the cave. The very first difficulties you're going to face is, of course, not only the difficulty of the weather, but the difficulty of procuring food. The simple act of procuring food may become difficult for you. And all your attention, instead of your spiritual ambitions, will suddenly come to filling your stomach and satisfying your hunger. Not only that, let us assume that you have reached a place which is near an ashram, and there they are providing food for mendicants, or food for free is being provided, so you're not really hungry. But then what will happen? So you stay there for some time and you say, oh, for first 1 week you're really enjoying yourself, you have no work to do, you don't have to earn money, food is anyway being provided. But slowly, as time passes, all those worldly thoughts are going to come back upon you. Suddenly, if you were a business person, suddenly you will start to visualize in your mind that, oh, I would one day open this company, or imaginary thoughts will come that if I had made such and such a company, and such were my employees, such and such products I would manufacture, such and such action will make me a billionaire. So it's because you have not purified your chitta. That is why all the thoughts that you had when you were in the world will continue to affect you if you are in a cave or the forest. And similarly, same for all sense pleasures. You will think about good food, you will think about your friends, you will think about making merry in this world. All of those thoughts will suddenly take over your mind, and therefore Krishna is warning that if you have not disciplined your mind, then renunciation is not possible. So therefore, if God has put us in an urban setup, it is because He knows that this urban setup is our requirement right now to evolve from wherever we are into the next step of our, growth or evolution. So therefore, do not keep saying that, oh, I wish I was, in some place else. You are in the perfect place according to your karma and according to God's will. Now, how are you going to utilize these circumstances? That is up to you. So from shloka number 7 to 12, Krishna is explaining further. He says, a yogi understands that actions are performed by the body, the mind, and the intellect, and not by the self. And by dedicating actions to God, one remains untouched by sin, just as the leaf of the lotus plant. And we studied this in great detail, but the important thing here is that the yogi understands that all the doership is happening at the level of Prakriti, and he, the soul, is untouched by all of that movement. Then he says the detached karma yogi attains peace. So why should we do all of this? Because this will lead to peace. And all of us attending this class today want peace. Don't we want peace? So what should we do if we want peace? That means that we should use, so we understanding the truth that we are the Atman, we should use our body, our mind and intellect as instruments in this world to do whatever responsibilities we have to fulfill and to do spiritual works. But in our hearts, we should always remember that this world is not mine. These actions are actually not mine. This body which I'm working with is not mine. So, idannamam, it is not mine. This belongs to the Lord. By keeping such an attitude, by detaching yourself from the activities of the body at a deeper level, you will find that you will always remain centered, calm, and peaceful. Now, this does not mean that you do not use your common sense. Of course, the body, mind, and intellect, they are interwoven together, and the soul as the ego is functioning through it. But as you practice your meditation, you will be able to come to a point where you can stand as a witness to the activities of the body, mind, intellect, rather than being interwoven like a web into all of them. So if you are saying that I think I'm this body and mind, which is perfectly fine for a worldly person, but all those meditators who are trying to get peace must deeply meditate to come to this point. Otherwise, this will not be understood clearly. This will not be realized. And remember, all of the shlokas have to be eventually realized and become true for us. We have to say, hence proved for ourselves. It has to become our own testimonial. We have to say, yes, it works for me. Okay, so then we proceed to shloka numbers 13 to 16. Here Krishna says, the yogi inwardly renounces all actions and desires and therefore dwells in peace. So again, it is an extension of the previous shloka. And of course, we must understand here is that renouncing action does not mean the action itself per se, but renouncing the fruits of action, because automatically imbibed in this worldly life are that whenever we act, we automatically expect that we are going to get such a result. So we need to dissociate the two. We need to separate the action which is happening in the present moment with any fruit that will come in a future moment. So this also helps us to live in the now. Then he says that knowledge of truth it removes the darkness of ignorance. So we are the Atman, but we are ignorant about the fact that we are the Atman. Then how will we know who we are? When wisdom dawns upon us. How will wisdom dawn upon us? When our intuition awakens. How will intuition awaken? By regular meditative practice, by regular contemplation, introspection, even devotion, or by all of these activities, our intuition awakens, and in that awakened intuition, the wisdom dawns, which tells us, which makes us realize that we are the Atman, and then alone the ignorance that we are this body and mind, this is removed forever. In shlokas number 17 to 21, Krishna says, those who fix their mind on the atman, the self, they attain liberation by purification of the mind. And then he says that a yogi develops an equal vision towards a brahmana, towards a cow, an elephant, or to any person. So, and we understood how this is possible is because the yogi has atma drishti instead of deha drishti. He understands that everything is made of that one God substance, and therefore he is able to equally see as, one reality. And then equality, he says, in the next shloka, he says, this equality of vision leads him to liberation from birth and death. And this should actually provoke a question within us that if it is so simple that if I have equal vision, I will be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So how is this possible? Should I create equal vision? Yes. How am I going to do that? Every day in your life, all you are seeing with your physical eyes is variety. And you have convinced in your mind to say that these are different people, these are different objects. Now, I'm not saying that in a transactional reality, you should become foolish and you should call a fan light and you should call light a TV or nothing like that. It's just that if you have gone deeper into your own consciousness by meditation, you will be able to understand that even behind the different objects like the TV, the fan, and the tube light, there is the electricity operating. Similarly, you will be able to see, if you have gone deeper into your own self, you will be able to see the common connection between all hearts, between all minds, and you will be even simply scientifically, you will be able to analyze that we are breathing the same air, we are having similar cellular structures, the same type of blood flows through all of us. So we are that one reality. So slowly over the passing of each day, we must bring ourselves closer to the oneness of everything rather than taking us away into variety, into separation. The more we live in I and you, or this is me, this is mine, and does not belong to anybody else, the more separation we create, the more in ignorance we are, the more in delusion we shall be. Therefore, in every endeavor and every day, we should try to see oneness between all creatures. Okay. And then Krishna says that the people who are the sages, they are equal-minded, and so whenever success comes, they are not excited by it, and whenever failure comes, they are not downcast by it. And Master has beautifully explained this to us, that we must stay even-minded and cheerful under all circumstances, because eventually these are waves of duality, these are bound to happen, but these are transient, they shall pass, and this is not who we are. In verses 22 to 26, an important point is brought out. Here Krishna says, pleasures from the senses lead to suffering. The wise do not seek them. Again, this is a very important shloka which should make us really introspect. We are thinking all this time that all the objects of this world are going to give us happiness. The Gita is saying completely differently. It is saying that the pleasures of the senses are not going to give you final happiness. They give you misery, and therefore, you should avoid them. So how do sense pleasures give you misery? Firstly, of course, they are very, very transient. Secondly, they do not satisfy you. You are always left seeking for more. And thirdly, even if you seek for more, they do not give as much satisfaction as the first connection of the sense and sense object does. Besides that, if you were to just compare the life of a brahmachari versus a person who indulges in a lot of sensual pleasure, what is the difference? A person who is indulging in a lot of sensual pleasure is depleting his or her energy at the bodily level. He is reducing the clarity and focus of his mind because the mental attention is drawn towards the lower chakras. And at this intellectual level also, there is intellectual fogging again, because a different part of the brain gets activated when a person is involved with sensual pleasures. And spiritually speaking, because the sensual pleasure does give some little level of happiness or pleasure, it takes you away from your yearning for truth. Your desire for God is lost because you think that this little pleasure is, I'm feeling happy in the moment right now, although we do not realize that it's going to give us pain later. But because of that little pleasure that you get, you forget God. So it is harmful in every way. And especially for, a sexual indulgence, Master clearly said that people who overindulge in sexuality, you find that their nervous system starts to weaken and they start to age much faster. So it is very important that we practice self-restraint and self-discipline as far as the senses are concerned. Because if we remember this verse, that they are misery producing, sense pleasures will produce misery at some level, in fact, at all levels. Therefore, we should use our senses only to what is required in this world. We have been given the senses to be utilized in a particular way so that we can sustain ourselves, so that we can see the variety and the beauty of this world. But it is not because so that we get entangled. We are not to get entangled, or we are not to go in a downward spiral when we use our senses. And that will happen only when we are, working from a higher intellect. Only when we are listening to the truth of the scriptures, which tell us what is the ideal, can we know that what are we supposed to do. If you are not reading the Gita, if you are not meditating, if you are not following a particular, spiritual path, just look at the people around you. What are they doing? They are, because they think that all happiness lies in those sense pleasures, that is all they are doing. But then look at the pain everywhere. Everybody is suffering. So it's not that a spiritual person will not have a bodily sickness or will not become old, but even in spite of the pain, the spiritual person will have a higher understanding of what life is all about the cycle of karma, about how he can transcend these difficulties and how he can stay blissful even in the midst of troubles of life. Okay. Another important point that is made in shloka number 26 is that whoever resists desire and anger till the end is a happy person. So again, a very difficult advice, but yet nonetheless, if we can follow this, so every time anger is starting to arise in us, or every time a sensual pleasure is trying to say, I want to do this, I want to grab that, I want to own the object, every time the thought is happening, if you can reason it out with your own desire, or in the sense you can curb that desire using your intellect. Also, you can use pranayam at that time when these desires or wrathful events are happening. If you can calm your prana at this time, and if you can reason it out with your intellect, then you will be able to conquer every urge of desire and every urge of wrathfulness. And once you are able to do that, then what will happen? It says that person is a happy person. We all want to be very, very happy. Okay, and then he says, joy, peace, and light reside within the self-realized. Last three verses, what do they say? Say, the yogi who withdraws his senses, who controls his breath and mind, is free from fear, desire, anger, and he attains liberation. So simple things said in a line: withdrawing the senses, controlling the breath and mind, and easy way out this. How do we manage our senses, mind, and breath? Is by practicing pranayam. And for all those who are Kriya Yogis, you know that by practicing Kriya Yoga, all of this is possible. In the last verse of chapter 5, shloka number 29, Krishna says, knowing me as the enjoyer of all sacrifices and the friend of all beings, one attains peace. So here he is saying that I am the friend of all beings. See me so, know me to be so. I am not away from you. I am your very own. And that is why what Yogananda used to say, he used to say that God is nearer to your own thoughts, nearer than your own emotions. He is the nearest of the near. He is the dearest of the dear. If you can understand this, that God is ever present and God is ever listening, then you will know that his protection is always there, that he is always guiding you. Now, most people pray not thinking that someone is listening. So they just pray that, oh, I wish this would be heard. But the truth is, all our prayers are heard. And it's just that Master says that God is not able to understand your prayers sometimes. Why? Because there is so much static in your brain. There is so much restlessness in your brain that there is no clear thought. And because of that, God doesn't understand sometimes what you really want. So that is why he said, praying after meditation, because in meditation you are able to still the mind, you are able to calm the mind. A prayer becomes 100 times more effective if it is offered after meditation rather than in a restless mind. All prayers are heard. Not only that, all our thoughts are also heard. So for a yogi, if he starts to just feel this, that God is listening to me every moment of my life. He knows my thoughts, he knows my emotions, he knows my situation, and he loves me. If the devotee feels, I am safe, I am supported, I am loved, I am protected, I am taken care of, because the Lord is always with me. This gives so much happiness, so much peace, so much confidence, and so much courage to the devotee that he goes to the area of fearlessness. And fearlessness is a sign of spiritual growth. And you can also check within yourself as to how fearless you are for daily situations, for your children, for your businesses, for your work, from disease and even from death. Are you becoming, over a period of time with your spiritual practices, are you developing fearlessness or not? If yes, this is a straight up sign of spiritual evolution. So this brings us to the beginning of chapter number 6. And this is what the first shloka says. And this chapter begins by Krishna addressing Arjuna. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Anashritah karam phalam karyam karma karoti ya sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriya. श्री भगवान ने कहा, वह एक सच्चा सन्यासी तथा सच्चा योगी भी है जो फल की इच्छा के बिना कर्तव्य कर्मों एवं आध्यात्मिक कर्मों को करता है, वह नहीं जो यज्ञों अथवा कर्मों का त्याग करता है. The blessed Lord said, He is the true renunciant and also the true yogi who performs dutiful and spiritual actions, karyam and karma, without desiring their fruits, not he who performs no fire ceremony or sacrifice, and nor he who abandons action. So, two important words have come in here. In fact, 4 important words, I would say. One is sannyasi, the other is yogi, the third word is akriya, and the fourth word is niragni. So let's analyze all of this. So akriya, of course, means the one who is not acting. So here Master explains, he says, the one who is neither renouncing the fruits of action, nor he is utilizing his time or energy to commune with God. So he is neither a sannyasi or renunciate, nor a yogi, the one who chooses not to act. And of course, in one sense, in the previous chapters, we have read that it is not possible for a person not to act. But even then, when we feel that through our free choice, we just don't want to do anything, that person is akriya, he will not reach anywhere, and the Gita advises not to be such a person. Then what do we mean by here? Niragni. So who's a niragni? So again, 2 things are mentioned here, is that a person who does not have the fire of renunciation and does not have the fire of meditation inside him. So such an akriya person, such a person who is idle, who is not acting, is not going to reach anywhere, and one should not become such a person. Then, and who is a sannyasi? The sannyasi can be seen at 2 levels. At the worldly level, in the sense, a householder level, the sannyasi would be that person who is performing all actions for the sake of the Lord and who is renouncing all fruits of action. On the other hand, who will be a yogi? A yogi can be both a householder or a monk. So any person who is trying to commune with God through the inner act of meditation, that is a yogi. And of course, I forgot to mention, in sannyasi, we talked about the householder level, where that person is renouncing the fruits of action and offering to God. But at a more severe level or a more disciplined level, this can be the outward sannyas as well. So people who become monks and nuns, they renounce everything. So not only the fruits of action, but also their attachments to their families, also their ability to earn money in this world. So they renounce home, they renounce money, they renounce their family, and of all the other things that we are associating with the world. So sannyas can happen at multiple levels, and we will understand which is better and what can we do about it. So where are we? So here again, Master goes on further explanation. He says if there's a new spiritual speaker, there's a novice. So if the novice is predominantly engaged in inner communion or act of meditation, he is in the yogi criteria. He will become a yogi. And if a person does all his household or worldly duties, not actually meditating, but with the bhav that he is doing it for the Lord and he does not want anything out of those, then he is predominantly a sannyasi. But that devotee who is doing both, that means the one who is regularly meditating and communing with God, and also who is doing all the work of this world without any selfish desire and offering the fruits of action, such a devotee will reach God most, in the fastest way, in the quickest way. So he is the one who knows God quickly. So again, this is a direct advice for us that we need to do both. And on the one hand, we need to commune actively with God. This has to be a proactive effort. And on the other hand, we need to renounce our attachments and our selfish desires from whatever work that our body, mind, and intellect is performing. So this Gita stanza, this will completely condemn idleness. And in fact, Master says that people who are so apathetic towards, they have that apathy towards all the worldly jobs, they actually start to become worthless because they degenerate physically, mentally, spiritually. So one should not go in that direction. And in fact, in his explanation, he actually mentions that the mendicants who roam around by the thousands in cities like Banaras, they are not yogis. So because of what? They have not disciplined themselves. What we read in chapter 5 becomes applicable here. So just by wearing the ochre robes, just by leaving your worldly duties, you do not become a true sannyasi or a true yogi or a yogi swami. That does not happen. It is more of an inward renunciation. It is more of an inner communion rather than an outward show of, to the world that I know I have left everything. And Master says every person should find a worldly duty to the extent which fulfills his responsibility and also helps him to lead a spiritual life which allows him to meditate and also fulfills all his responsibility. All of us should do that. Now he says, if you do not understand what your ideal worldly duty should be, then he recommends the prayer that we have heard many times, which is, Lord, I will reason, I will, I will act, but guide thou my reason, will, and activity to the right path in everything. By saying this prayer, then if we have any confusion in our mind regarding our duty, this will be solved. How will this be solved? Because when your intuition awakens, you will find that the Guru and the God will keep guiding you as the inner voice of your conscience. And that inner voice of conscience is always there. It is we who, with our restless mind, that is the static which I was mentioning, it creates so much static, it creates so much inner noise that we are not able to hear the voice of our inner conscience. And through that awakened voice, the Guru guides our path, and we have to just remain open to that. And by how do we become open to that voice is by attuning ourselves to the teachings of the Guru, by attuning ourselves to what the scriptures are saying, by regular meditation, and by leaving lower things of this life, in the sense old habit patterns which keep you stuck, vices like anger, jealousy, envy. We have to give all of those up, and we have to have divine qualities. So as we keep progressing, we find that the inner voice of the conscience becomes clearer, and you will be able to hear it better and better over the period of time. Okay. So, a very important statement he makes is regardless of hereditary, environment, and evolutionary status, the most important duty of every man is to establish his consciousness in unity with God. So whatever your station in life, eventually the most important duty is what? Self-realization. Because by self-realization, you get to know that you are the Atman, and the Atman and the Paramatman are one. So you become that one omnipresent God consciousness. And that is everyone's duty. And we have been told, the scriptures have told us over and over again, that this is the one goal of human life. Why is there human existence? Why is there so much human suffering? Eventually, through suffering, through our learning, we grow and maturely, we use our intellect, and we go to the soul level where we start to ask questions. Why is there so much suffering? How can I transcend suffering? What should I do so that this suffering does not come again? So it is not only important that we cure our illnesses just once, but we must make sure that they don't come over and over again. So how do we remove suffering from the root that it does not recur? And if we are asking these questions, then automatically we are turning to the scriptures, and the scriptures are telling us that this is the path. You must do your yamas, you must do your niyamas, so do's and don'ts, or don'ts and disciplines of life, then practicing of pranayam, then asana, a good way of life, then prayer, and then all of those. So bhakti, karma, jnana, meditation, everything will come into place, and all these paths have clearly laid out in the scriptures. It's just that you have to ask the question. So suddenly, if you are not a meditator, now you remember that time when you were, just practicing having your worldly life and not to doing meditation, then it was difficult to find people who were meditating initially. But the moment you start to seek, a shift happens, and suddenly more and more people in your orbit, you find they are meditating. Oh, this person is also meditating, that person is also meditating, a friend's friend is also meditating. Suddenly the circle in which you go, and you find so many people are interested in meditation. So the moment your thought has shifted, the moment your frequency shifts, and a different door is opened, and suddenly you find people of similar frequency. So, and more, suppose you go now more towards bhakti. Let's say a person has bhakti temperament, and suddenly he will start to find more and more people who are interested in bhakti. Same as for meditation, same. Now let's go the other way. Now, if you are playing football, and suddenly you will find, and you're interested suddenly, and you start to seek, okay, is there a football club around? Is there people playing football around me? You will find more and more friends, more and more people. Suddenly the contacts will come, and you will find a group of people who are playing football. So whatever you seek, that you will find. So therefore, it is important. What is the predominant thought in your mind? What is the predominant thing that you are seeking from your heart? Because the universal alignment will change according to that. And this is quantum physics. And what does quantum physics says is that your world view will determine your experience of the world. It is not that the world will determine the experience of the world. No. Because for every viewer, the world can be slightly different. This is the basis of quantum physics. And therefore, you must notice this in your life. As you change your thought pattern, as you change your frequency, and as you change your view of the world, that way the world will present itself to you. You will find those kind of people in your circle. And the reverse is also true. When we say, Jaki rahi bhavna jaisi prabhu murat dekhi tin taisi, means whatever is the bhav of the devotee, that way he or she will see the Lord. The universe is such a dynamic moving, magical thing. So the way you want to see it, that way the universe will present itself to you. Same for the Lord himself. If you want to see him as Krishna, you will experience him as Krishna in meditation and otherwise. Otherwise, as in you will have that, that bhav of bhakti towards Krishna, that love towards baby Krishna, or the romantic love of Radha and Krishna, you will think of that. Suppose you want to see God as Divine Mother, then you will see everywhere, you will find that everything appears to be the power of Divine Mother. So it all depends on you. You are the center of your universe. And then the soul is that center, okay? And then what happens? Then over that is the layer of the mind, the intellect and the mind, and over that, the layer of the body and the senses. So change your thought to change your life. This is not a simple adage. This is very, very true. You are sitting under your own wishing tree, kalpataru, as they say. Whatever you deeply wish, that the universe will manifest. So be careful about what you are desiring in your heart, because that will manifest, and you will be made to do karma to manifest that, and that will keep you in bondage. And therefore, it is important to be in tune with the teachings of the Guru and the scriptures, that is, teachings of God, so that we remain free, so that we are not enmeshed in the web of this world, so that we know the truth, and only the truth can set us free. That is what Jesus Christ said in the Bible. Only our knowledge of our own atmic nature, which is ever free, only that will set us free. Okay. Then Master says, and so now sometimes people say, okay, they are new people and they've started meditation, and you say, okay, these are yogis. But then they can be over enthusiastic and they may say that, okay, I'm going to meditate all the time. But this is not a very practical thing to do, because again, the same thing applies, that we have not prepared our mind or disciplined our mind enough that we can meditate all the time. Therefore, even if you are predominantly a yogi, a meditator, even then you should engage in some useful worldly actions which are serviceful in nature, so that your vibration stays in the higher realm, and then when you want to meditate, you are able to meditate. So it is important that you keep yourself busy with God in some way or the other, and you engage in activities that remind you of God and that take you towards God. And of course, this means all the daily duties. And you may say, oh, I'm a banker, I'm a teacher, how do you think I will remember God? How do you think I can, work for God? It is clearly said by the scriptures, you should think of God before you act, you should think of God while you act, you should think of God after you act. Whatever client is in front of you, whoever, if a student is in front of you, or your business partner is in front of you, consider them to be from Atma Drishti. You will know that they are actually an extension of you. They are the same God substance as you. And therefore, try to deal with them as if you were dealing with a God presence in front of you. It is difficult. Why? Because our senses see variety. But as we said earlier, the deeper we can go into our own consciousness, the more we can easily see the oneness between us and everybody else. One who renounces both internally and externally and becomes a monk also has to, so it doesn't mean if you suddenly decide that, okay, I will become a monk. So it is not that you can immediately be initiated into the Swami order. It does not mean that you have suddenly become victorious over your senses. So even the monk has to go through a period of preparation before proper vows of sannyas or brahmacharya can be properly taken. So all of us, whether we want to continue to live a worldly life or we want to go into sannyasa, it needs a proper preparation. And previously in the 5th chapter, Krishna has said, it is better to live in the world and renounce inwardly your selfish desires, your attachments, and the fruits of action. That is better than karma sannyasa, because that is not easy for most. For most, it is easy. We are already in the householder setup. We are already in the worldly setup. Here, we can go for inner renunciation, and that is going to be easier for us to attain God. We can simultaneously, as Master has said, simultaneously think of God, meditate on God, and then offer all your actions at the feet of the Lord. Okay. So for aspiring devotees in the world or in the ashram, the call of the Bhagavad Gita is to make the heart a hermitage of God, wherein as a renunciate, one strives for inner desirelessness and non-attachment, and as a yogi, one envelops himself in meditative bliss by practicing the divine presence. So a clear-cut pathway has been given to all of us. We cannot say we do not know what to do, because the Gita has been very clear about it, and Master has given us with crystal clarity what exactly we should do, in the sense with what attitude, and how do we go about our daily life. So this brings us to shloka number 2. Yam sanyasamiti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava na hyasanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. हे पांडव अर्जुन, यह समझ लो कि जिसे शास्त्रों में संन्यास कहा गया है वह योग ही है, क्योंकि जिसने संकल्प यानी स्वार्थपूर्ण उद्देश्य का त्याग नहीं किया है वह योगी नहीं हो सकता. Understand, O Arjuna, that which is spoken of in the scriptures as renunciation is the same as yoga. For he who has not renounced selfish motive or sankalpa cannot be a yogi. So what does this mean? So actually is saying that a perfected sannyasi and an accomplished yogi are one and the same. Because if you are a yogi and you have your, regularly meditating, you're communing with God, but you have not renounced your selfish desires, then this is an incomplete accomplishment. So automatically a yogi who is able to meditate on the Lord will find that in his life he has no selfish desires. He is reducing his attachment to the world. Automatically it will happen. So the yogi also automatically develops in renunciation. On the other hand, a person who is consciously renouncing or consciously become a sannyasi, slowly over a period of time starts to feel the presence of God in his life. So the sannyasi starts to feel the union with God. The yogi who is uniting his consciousness with God starts to renounce automatically in his life. So that is why the sannyasi and yogi, although appear to be two different category of people, but they are actually one and the same. This is the simple explanation of this shloka, and we will move on next to the shloka number 3 and 4, which are taken together. Number 3. आरुरुक्षर्मुने योर्गं कर्म कारणमुच्यते योगरूढस्य तस्यैव शम कारणमुच्यते. वह मुनि जो आरोहण की इच्छा रखता है, दिव्य मिलन योग के लिए ध्यान संबंधी कर्म उसका मार्ग कहा जाता है, और योग में निपुण हो जाने पर अकर्म अवस्था उसका मार्ग बतलाया जाता है. For the Muni desiring ascension, meditative action for divine union is spoken as his way. When he has mastered this yoga, then inaction is said to be his way. I'll read shloka number 4 also together, because the explanation has been given together by Yogananda ji. Number 4. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karmasvanusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudhastadochyate. वह व्यक्ति जिसने इंद्रियों के विषयों और कर्मों दोनों के प्रति आसक्ति को जीत लिया है और जो भी अहम प्रेरित योजनाओं से मुक्त है, उस मनुष्य को आत्मा और परमात्मा के मिलन में दृढ़ता से स्थिर कहा जाता है. He who has overcome attachment both to sense objects and to actions, and who is free from all ego-instigated plannings, that man is said to have attained firm union of soul with spirit. Okay. This shloka number 3 is very interesting. So Krishna is saying, for those who are aspiring to be one with God, for them karma or action is the way. And those who have reached the stage of yoga, inaction is their way. What does this mean? So of course, right now we are all active. Active in all senses. Our body is functional automatically, our breathing is going on, our mind is functional. At various levels of our existence, we are doing actions. And if suppose now I say I want to have divine communion or I want to practice yoga, so I do a specific action, a particular type of action to ascend into that state. But after I have ascended, so once a person has united his soul with spirit, now soul and spirit are absolute stillness, are absolute existence. So from the state of movement, this person goes into the state of stillness. And once the soul is united with spirit, once the atma is united with the Paramatma, he enters the stage of absolute stillness, and therefore inaction is his way. So the person who is beginning his path of yoga, for him action is required. But the same person, when is established in the state of oneness of soul and spirit, inaction is his way. And this state of perfect stillness and inaction, which is achieved after all of the meditative action, this state is called the state of being the Yogaruda. Means established in oneness, means established in the wisdom, established in Satchidananda, established in stillness. So you are basically self-realization. Another word for self-realization is Yogaruda. And so what happens is that now attaining the state of Yogaruda, so a person has realized his self, so automatically what will happen? He will have no desires for sensual pleasure. Secondly, if there is no desire for any object of this world or any sense pleasure, then automatically all the planning or the sankalpas that go along with having particular desires, that will automatically be gone. So there is no selfish planning to attain anything in this world, because he has come to the state of which is beyond all action. He knows he is the Atman. He is already in bliss. He wants nothing from this world. And because he wants nothing from this world, he does not plan anything specific. Now, this does not mean that he stops acting, because he continues to act for two reasons. One is because his prarabdha may still be left, and second is because he still has a body and mind, but he utilizes this body and mind to do actions which are only God reminding, God uniting, and basically sharing God with everybody. And the third is automatically he is freed from the thought that he is the doer. So all of us, we want to come to this state of being a Yogaruda, where we are not left with any selfish desires. We are already established in the bliss of the soul, and we are not looking forward that, falsely thinking that a future event or probably getting an object is going to give us any happiness. We have already come to the state that I am the source of all the bliss that I am seeking, because my nature is of bliss itself. Not only I am happy, but I am happiness itself. Not only I want peace or I am peaceful, but I am peace itself. I am calmness itself. I am wisdom itself. I am power itself. So that Yogaruda knows who he is. And I'm being reminded of a song we used to sing in school, actually. And I never understood the meaning of that song till after I read the Bible and the Gita later. And then the song is, I am wisdom, his companion, ever at his side to be. I was born before creation. So basically, this is the wisdom of the soul, which is ever there. So it's one of the 8 aspects of divine consciousness is wisdom. And divine consciousness, whether creation happens or not, divine consciousness is always present as Satchidananda. And when it creates, its wisdom is the witness. And that is what this song meant. And this is such a beautiful reminder of some childhood days. So just wanted to share with you. Okay. Right. So this brings us to Master says a few more things on this. He says that there is a step by step as we ascend into divine consciousness, there are certain steps that are involved. And the first is, as the yogi is meditating, he first brings his energy and attention to the level of his astral spine, to the level of the chakras. And as he advances more and more in meditation, he is able to from his chakras, he's able to go take his attention to his astral body, from there into the ideational body, and then from there into cosmic consciousness. And for this, he mentions is that the particular karma that has been mentioned, the word karma has been used in shloka, in this shloka, that he says this word karma here refers to the act of Kriya Yoga. And he also says another thing. He says special techniques. The word karma in this stanza is used technically to signify the special techniques such as Kriya Yoga and Kevali Pranayam. So Kevali, what is Kevali Pranayam? Is a new term that has been introduced. But Kevali Pranayam is basically when first you practice Kriya Yoga and you use your breath and you use your prana, and then once you have reached the breathless state, so eventually all the meditation and pranayam takes you to a point where you can be consciously breathless and can be consciously thoughtless. And at that point, what happens is only the mind remains to be dissolved in cosmic consciousness. So Kevali Pranayam is that higher state. So most of us will not understand this because we have not experienced it directly. And therefore, but theoretically speaking, once the prana is neutralized, when the pran and the apan are neutralized and the yogi goes into the breathless state, then only the mind remains, and the process of dissolving the mind into pure Chaitanya, that is Kevali Pranayam, and this has been just mentioned here by Master. Okay. So this brings us to shloka number 5 and 6. I will just mention shloka number 5, which is very interesting, and we'll have a short discussion on this before we end our class. Uddharedatmanatmanam natmanavvasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuratmaiva ripuratmana. मनुष्य को अपनी आत्मा द्वारा अपने अहम का उत्थान करना चाहिए, अपने द्वारा आत्मा का अधोपतन नहीं होने देना चाहिए। वास्तव में स्वयं आत्मा ही अपना मित्र है और आत्मा ही अपनी शत्रु है। Let man uplift the self, ego, by the self. So ego by the atman. Let the self not be self-degraded. Indeed, they say that the self is its own friend and the self is its own enemy. Very interesting. Too many times the word self has been used here, and it is confusing. Sometimes the word self is used with a small s, which means the ego. And sometimes the word self is being used with a big capital S, which means the soul. So when the ego, which is the soul identified with the body and mind, when it develops divine qualities, and when it engages in higher activities like meditation, then the soul and the ego can become friends. But when the ego indulges in activities which obscure its own soul nature, then the ego and the soul cannot be friends. And a very direct example is the Gita itself, the Mahabharata itself. So the ego of Arjuna, which has developed its divine qualities and which has disciplined its own mind, to that friend, Krishna, the soul, will become a friend, to that ego. So the ego and the soul are friends in case of Arjuna and Krishna. But when we consider the ego of Duryodhana, Duryodhana has involved himself in activities which are basically, he is the selfish desire himself, but he has developed so many vices which are represented by all of his brothers, is that he has occluded that he himself is the Atman. So he has forgotten completely. So in the case of Duryodhana, Krishna, the soul, cannot be his friend. So this is very, very simply understood. If we always have free choice. If we develop divine qualities in ourselves, if we keep our company right, if we are engaged in higher and nobler activities, and simultaneously we are invoking the presence of the Lord in the form of prayer or yajna or meditation, then Krishna, our own soul, will be our friend. And it will take us from this cycle of birth and death into its own freedom. On the other hand, if we choose to develop bad qualities, if we choose to do adharma, then more and more we will be trapped into samsara. Why? Because we cannot have Krishna as our friend. Then Krishna will be in the opposing army, and in fact, Krishna will tell the opposing army how to kill this ego. So if we want to be immortal, because we are immortal souls, it is the nature of the soul to want to live forever. It lives forever. If we want that immortality, if we want that bliss forever, then we have to befriend Krishna, and Krishna will be our friend if we become good children of God. This is very simply put like this. So with this beautiful thought, we will end today's class. And we will share the blessings that we have received with souls everywhere. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, beloved Krishna, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Divine Mother, beloved Krishna, great Gurus, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all true hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.